Class, welcome back to Chapter 4.1, or welcome to Chapter 4.1 since this is the first section in 4.1. In 4.1, we're going to talk about coordinates and scatter plots. So Mrs. Thomas asked me the other day, when do we start getting into graphing? So we are right now. So she's probably talked to you a little bit about graphing. So I'm going to explain it all over again. Not sure what she exactly hit on. So here we go. So key terms. A coordinate plane is formed by two real numbers that intersect at a right angle. Okay, so a coordinate plane is formed by two real numbers that intersect at a right angle. So to make it simple, this whole thing is a coordinate plane. So when I refer to a coordinate plane, the graph is a coordinate plane. Okay, each point in the coordinate plane corresponds to an ordered pair of real numbers. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, so the first number in the ordered pairs is the x coordinate, and the second number is the y coordinate. So we'll talk about that in 1 second. But let's look at this graph that I circled. It's very important that you understand that this red line right here is the y-axis. Okay, there's this little y right here, but the vertical line on the coordinate plane is the y-axis. And the horizontal line, blue, is the x-axis. Here's this little x right here telling you. Okay, so here's x, and then the vertical line is y. Okay. So, very important here is that this point here, dead center in the middle, is your origin. Okay, is 0, 0. That is the middle part. That is where the y-axis and the x-axis intersect each other. Okay, so the point is 0, 0. So when we're looking at this ordered pair now, 3, -2, okay, it tells us that the first number is the x and the second number is the y. So it tells me that I'm going to run 3 because I'm going to the x value first. So I ran 3 and then I go down 2. So that's how I get to my point 3, -2. Okay? Now, on the second picture here, we see that the coordinate plane, when divided, when intersected, the x and y intersect each other, it's broken into 4 quadrants. Okay, so you got to memorize these. So counterclockwise, quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. And look at the ordered pair in each quadrant. Okay, here it's plus plus in quadrant 1. In quadrant 2, we know it's minus plus. So that means that your x value will be a negative and your y value will be a positive. Here we know that our x and y are both positive. In quadrant 3, we know that both of our x and y are both negative. And in quadrant 4, we know that our x is positive and our y is negative. Okay, so a lot of important information on a coordinate plane. So you got to make sure you understand that the y-axis is a vertical line. The x-axis is a horizontal line. Okay, and where they intersect each other is the origin, 0, 0. That's the ordered pair, 0, 0 at the origin. And that ordered pairs in each of the quadrants have different values. So you got to make sure that you understand in quadrant 2, negative x and y. So make sure you have that all down. Okay, so it's broken up into 4 quadrants. So the x-axis and the y-axis divide the coordinate into 4 quadrants. You can tell which quadrant a point is in by looking at the signs of the coordinates. So going back to what we just learned, I can look at this point 3, 4 and know that my x is positive and my y is positive. So I know that this is going to be in quadrant 1. So let's plot that point. Again, x, I go x first, so I run 3, and I go up 4. And that's not a straight line at all. So my point right there is 3, 4. Okay. So the next point, -2, -3. So negative, negative. So I know negative, negative is in quadrant 3 here. So 2 over, -2 to the left, and -3 down. So I know my point is right there. So again, -2, -3. Okay. Now this is a little bit of a tricky one here. Okay. I know my values are both plus. Okay, but remember 0 is either negative or positive. So it's not really a plus. So what's going to happen is I'm going to first graph this point, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So 2, 0. I go over 2 and 0. I don't go up or down, so that point is right there. That point falls on the x-axis. Okay? So whether you have a 0 as an x or you have a 0 in for y with a value, okay, for the x and y, you will fall on an axis. So here you'd fall on the y-axis, and here you'd fall on the x-axis. These 2 points are not in a quadrant. Okay, so this point 2, 0 right here is not on a quadrant or in a quadrant. It is on the x-axis. Okay, it's very important you understand that. So for example, if I gave you 0, -5. Well, 0 tells me the x is 0, and you go down -5 right here. So that is not in a quadrant, that is on the y-axis. So you notice when I'm graphing these points, I always start at the origin, and that's where you want to start from. Okay, when you're plotting points, you always want to start at the origin, the 0, 0, and move from there. Move your x value first, whether it's positive or negative, and then your y value, whether it's positive or negative. Alright, here is our scatter plot. And something may be cut off on this number D here, but we have all the information we have, so don't think something's cut off here. But a scatter plot is very similar to a coordinate plane. Okay, just for right now, we have all positive numbers. So really, everything that we graph here is in quadrant 1 on this scatter plot. So a scatter plot is going to be basically a lot of the points that we just plotted. A scatter plot is going to be a lot of those points. It's telling us something about the data, okay, that we're looking at here. So now we have this height in inches and this weight in pounds, okay, and we have to make a scatter plot, okay, with all these data. So we're going to have a lot of points all over the place. So the first thing you have to do is make sure that you label your x and y axis. What do they mean? So for the bottom here, our x is going to be our height, and our y is going to be our weight. So our height starts at 72, but you got to kind of look throughout the data and find out what our lowest number is. So our lowest number, I believe, is 66. Okay, so we got to make sure that we start somewhere with 66, or let's just start with 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, okay, and 76 is our highest, so we'll show 77. I could have probably spread this out a little bit further since I have a larger line, but that's okay. So our weight will start at, let's see, 150 is our lowest, 150. So 150, let's go by fives. 155. Sorry, should have made this beforehand just to see what it would look like, but 150, 155, 160, 165, 170, 175, 180, 185. Okay? And we have to go to 200 for sure, so 190, 195, 200. Okay. So we labeled our X and Y axis, and we put our points in there. So now we're going to plot the points. So we're going to pretend that our height is our X. So our X is 72, and our weight is 190. So that's an ordered pair right here. Okay? So we're going to go to 72, which is right here, and we're going to go to 190, which is probably somewhere right in there. Okay? So we're going to do that for every one. So 70, 170, 71, and 180, 70, and 175, 69, and 160. I don't know why my points are leaving me. There we go. Okay, 70 and 160. 69 and 150. 73 and 180. 66 and 150. 70 and 150. And 76 and 200. Alright, now I should have really only used this much for a graph. I made this bigger than what I thought, and I should have expanded that part a little bit just to make it a little easier to see. But that's alright. So first, make a scatter plot of the data. That's what I just created. Okay, I put all my data onto this graph in quadrant 1. Now use the scatter plot to estimate the weight of a player who is 69 inches tall. So we know that at 69 inches tall that we have somebody at 160 and we have somebody at 150. So it says to estimate what you think somebody who is 69 inches tall would be. So I have one person at 150, I have one person at 160. I can divide that by 2 because there's 2 weights there at that one. So now we have, I think 310 divided by 2 would be 155. Okay, so we think we can estimate based on our data that somebody that is 69 inches tall would be 155 pounds. Okay, so for your homework in the class, try to estimate what somebody about 71 inches would be based on the data. In general, how much does weight change as height changes? What do we notice from this graph? Reading this graph, what do we notice? That's what C is asking. You can write that down in your notes too. What do you notice? And then D, tell me about 74 inches. So we didn't have anybody at 74 inches, but give your best estimate of what you think somebody around 74 inches would weigh. Okay? I'm moving a little bit fast because I only have 28 seconds. So on page 205, there's an example number 3. I want you to look at that, and you're going to try to answer A, B, and C without looking at the solutions at the bottom of that page. And then after you answer that, look at the solutions and see what you came up with. Okay, I'm sorry this is fast. Email me if you have any questions. And I will see you in class and we can talk about it. Take care.